This is a special weekend edition of Vote Her In, a collaboration between Two Broads Talking Politics and author Rebecca Sive. On today's episode, we talk to Fatima Goss Graves, the president and CEO of the National Women's Law Center. Hi, everyone. This is Kelly Pollock, and you are listening to Vote Her In, which is a collaboration between Two Broads Talking Politics and author Rebecca Sive. We are coming to you once again from stay-at-home orders, where we will probably be for quite a while. So joining me today and to introduce our guest is Rebecca. Hello, Rebecca.
Hi, Kelly. And I wanted to say to everyone, we are just persisting, as I know you all are. And so we're particularly delighted that today we're joined by Fatima Goss Graves, who's the head of National Women's Law Center, which is a very important organization in a number of respects we're going to be talking about. She's been there quite a while. She followed Marcia Greenberger, the founding head, and they have just been the stalwart in many ways of fighting for the legal rights of women. So I'm particularly pleased that we can focus on that at this time and learn a bit about what we need to think about going forward on the issue front as we work with the women who are leading these efforts and leading their own campaigns. So I'd like to start with asking a question about to Fatima about this new plan of the federal government about relief for people, about how it relates. In particular, I noted this on your website earlier, to the child care industry. And of course, there are millions of moms and dads and children out there who are at risk. So welcome, and let's just dive right into this really important issue.
Well, thanks for having me, and I hope everyone out there is staying safe and well. We are really in extraordinary times, and these are times that require meaningful leadership, and but there are also times that require us to put the people who are most hard hit first and at the center. We know that women are the vast majority of people who are considered essential workers right now. It's because they make up a vast majority of the healthcare sector, but they're also more likely to be grocery clerks. They're more likely to be care workers. At the same time, they're also going to be really hard hit by job losses because they are disproportionately in retail and in restaurants. And one of the things that we fought really hard for in the $2 trillion bill to support emergency relief was to get support for child care centers. We know that within just a matter of weeks, about 30% of child care centers will have to shut down permanently because they will not have the resources to float them through at this time. These are largely small businesses led by women of color that are not sitting on any sort of huge cushion. And that's just one sort of example. We fought hard to get more, and I will just tell you the thing that we need to keep reminding ourselves is that even though $2 trillion is a lot of money, our work is just beginning. This public health crisis and the economic crisis that is accompanying it is strong and long and will be long lasting. And so we're already hard at work on what will be the fourth effort to really help people stay safe, stay healthy, and deal with this economic crisis.
Like you, I'm a mom, and, I have been thinking a lot about how even people like me who are privileged enough to be able to work from home, it's still a lot to be doing, to be caring for the family, working at home, homeschooling kids, but then also trying to stay active in the public arena, working on politics and campaigns that benefit women. Can you tell us a little bit about your priorities for advocacy and mobilization in the coming months? What we should be looking at now and toward November?
Sure. And yeah, this is sort of an interesting time for an organization like the National Women's Law Center, where we have a large portion, even of our own staff, who are right now dealing with the challenge of working, but also homeschooling and parenting all at once and learning to deal with that on an emergency basis. And we know that only is exacerbated around the country. So there are a few things that people can do, and I really hope that they will. But I hope that people will be engaging deeply around this next package, because there are lots of people left out of the important provisions that were in there. For example, around paid sick days and paid family leave. We have way too many workers who were left out, either because they have the unfortunate circumstance of working at a business that's too large, 500 employees or more, or because now, based on a new Department of Labor interpretation, they have the unfortunate situation of working at a business that is too small, 50 or less. And so one of the things that we need to make sure is a huge message that is reflected in the next package is that no matter where you work, no matter who you are, and no matter what state you live in, you should deserve to be able to work with safety. And part of working with safety includes being able to have sick time should you need it. And part of what we know for the vast majority of women who both work and engage in care is that the deep burden of that is falling on women. The burden of actually homeschooling and dealing with teaching young children while also trying to maintain a job is falling on women. And so our public policies have to reflect that. This is not just an individual problem to be worked out. The second thing that I want to make sure that people know is that they should be weighing in on the specific types of measures for this next bill around future payments to people, around unemployment insurance, around support for small businesses and entrepreneurs. And also to be sure that extremists don't use this moment to try to do harmful things. Somehow, in the midst of this public health and economic crisis, we are dealing with extremists who are trying to put abortion out of reach, who are trying to roll back protections around reproductive health care. That is not a fight that we should be having right now, but unfortunately, it's one that we are. And so weighing in and saying that that is not how you expect policymakers to use their time is important. And then the last thing, I am deeply worried that people won't know about the important measures that are in the bill, that they won't know how to access unemployment insurance, that they won't know how to ask to take paid sick time and paid family leave should they need it. Those are things that we really need people on the ground to help get the word out about in their networks and in their communities.
And so on that point, can you talk a little bit about, those of us who do have some time while we're at home and social distancing, about the kinds of outreach and advocacy that you think we ought to be doing in our communities to make sure that the women know what their rights are and how to access them?
Well, there's a range of things that people can do. I think most people get their information from sources that they're familiar with. So whether that is community groups that you're involved with, your worship, places of worship, that is a good place, a good starting point, and getting information there is helpful. The second thing is, as states are moving forward with measures around staying at home, but also measures around supporting their communities financially, sharing information from your state and local government around both the public health protections, but also how to collect information and resources, and in the end, dollars, is hugely important. We're going to be doing, through our legal network, information to attorneys who are excited to support people who have trouble accessing the benefit programs or who really are having trouble exercising their rights under these new provisions, because all of this is new. It is new, the idea in most places to have paid sick days and to have paid family leave. Unfortunately, large portions of our workforce have been exempt from even state and local measures. And so the new people who will be able to be a part of these protections are important. And that includes, by the way, people who are part-time workers. That includes people who are in the gig economy. They can also participate in both the unemployment insurance provisions and the paid sick provisions.
At the same time that women are facing the crisis in the workplace and the home and everything else that's happening, the Me Too movement continues continues to be a presence in our lives. Can you tell us some about the work of the TimesUp fund that you administer and the related legal action and policy advocacy to that?
You know, it's been one of the greatest pleasures to be able to house and run the TimesUp Legal Defense Fund. We have been able to help over 4,000 people with attorney information and with storytelling support. And they are coming from every state in the country, and they are coming from over 60 different sectors. And that tells me that harassment is both an everywhere problem, but there are things that can be done to really address it. And, you know, we've been able to also fund over 150 cases, and that has been hugely important as well. Some of the cases that we have funded have involved restaurant workers and workers who work for McDonald's, people who are working in stores, but some have involved security guards, people who are working in hospitals, really everywhere you can imagine. One of my deep worries right now, I will tell you, is that sometimes a crisis and huge rates of unemployment create really fertile ground for additional abuse, really fertile ground for retaliation. So the people who actually dare come forward and tell their stories are told, it's not only that you won't be able to hold on to a job, but good luck getting that next job. So it's even more important to support people who are trying to come forward right now and who are trying to get the relief that they need.
You know, I was exactly thinking about that. There's, you know, a lot of sort of anecdotal information, and I'm sure you've heard specific stories about, you know, women who've really been challenged in that way. And I'm wondering if you could share with us in this context, you know, your ideas about, again, for those of us who are able to reach out to others, you know, what kind of messages and actions can we take to help other women who are facing difficulty in this Me Too context persevere and know that they can reach out?
The first thing is reminding people that they're not alone. I mean, that is one of the beautiful things about Tarana Burke's Me Too framework, is that there's something about solidarity that is embedded in the heart of it, that you are not alone, that there are many other people who are just like you. The second thing is reminding people that no matter the economy, we do still have laws in place. Not everyone is covered in the way that they should be, but our laws, our 50-year-old civil rights laws, are not new laws. Our protections against discrimination and workplace abuse, they're not new laws. And that there's an army, really, of attorneys who are ready to go to bat for people who do come forward.
I have to say, it's so gratifying to know that. And I hope we'll help spread the word here on the show, and we'll add some links to the interview with you later.
I know that one of the advocacy efforts that you've really worked on is improving the lives of women of color. And you participated in a webinar recently that was hosted by Higher Heights. Can you talk some about the takeaways from that, from both what you talked about and the rest of the panelists, in that what, especially sort of in this moment, improving the lives of women of color?
Yeah, I was so glad Higher Heights has a regular series that they call Sunday Brunch that happens Sunday afternoons, and we've been doing it on Facebook Live. And they are starting this week a new program that they just announced called The SIP, which will be another place for people to gather in community. The conversation that we had yesterday was really specifically around Black women, both Black women's health and wellness during this extraordinary time, which is bringing with it all sorts of stress and trauma on families and communities, but also really getting information out to the Black community and to Black women in particular about how to access the resources that are in this new bill, how to access unemployment insurance, how to ask your employer for paid sick time, information for entrepreneurs who may be eligible for small business loans, and also trying to get people geared up for this next round because the last bill was sort of the COVID 3. They were labeling it Bill 3, but there will be a Bill 4. There will probably be a Bill 5 and Bill 6. We are going to have to again and again fight to ensure that people get what they need. And we need the support of everyone. We need the Black community to really understand it. But I want to be sure that each of those proposals actually get Black women what they need, that they're not left out of recovery. There's this old saying that when the Black community, when the nation gets the cold, the Black community gets the flu. And I'm not sure what happens when the nation gets COVID in that case. And so we really want to be sure that the recovery is possible and felt deeply in every part of this country, and that we aren't leaving behind from either the public health crisis or this economic crisis, Black women.
And on that point, if you would, as we come to the end of this panel, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be a part of the Voter In discussion, can you share with us other kind of related and important news from the center or legal cases that we should be aware of, that we should tell our circles of women friends about, organizations about?
So one of the things that you should know is that the work that women have been leading before this crisis and will be leading after this crisis has been extraordinary. There's been women who have been driving these last few years, pushing Congress to do the right thing. It's been women who have been gathering with our friends at supermajority to meet throughout the 2020 election cycle. It's been women who have been showing up for these mutual relief funds to support domestic workers and tipped workers and farm workers who are suddenly without a job and already without a safety net. And so what I would tell the people who are listening in is that you should be inspired by the activism that really is women-led in this moment. And if you're not already diving in, there's plenty of room for you to engage with the National Women's Law Center and with so many of our partners, and I hope you do.
So on that note, we're going to, and I think I mentioned this earlier to our listeners, we're going to include a bunch of information at the end of this interview about how you can get involved with what National Women's Law Center is doing. But if you would also take the chance to share with them and with what you're doing and what's happening in your community, so we can have this exchange between Washington, D.C. and the network there and our networks around the country. So in closing, I wanted to thank you so much, Fatima, for doing this. And of course, we'll continue to partner and work hard as we all persist and keep moving forward. So thanks ever so much for taking the time.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
The Vote Her In segment is a collaboration of Two Broads Talking Politics and author Rebecca Sive. Our theme song is called Are You Listening off of the album Elephant-Shaped Trees by the band Immunuri, and we're using it with permission of the band. Our logo and other original artwork is by Matthew Weflin and was created for use by this podcast. You can contact us at twobroadstalkingpolitics@gmail.com or on Twitter or Facebook at Two Broads Talk. You can find all of our episodes at twobroadstalkingpolitics.com or anywhere podcasts are found.